A little video on the MTS2000 disassembly and components. I am right-handed, so I usually like to hold this in my left hand. I use a thin, flat-bladed screwdriver. And let's see if I can zoom in a little. Put it right in here. Be careful, because this little plastic piece from here to here can break on them, and that will prevent the radio case from holding in together. So I usually just stuff it in here, spread the bottom case out, and pry up gently. Once you see you've released those two little tabs right there, and right there, pull the case up. And one thing I forgot, you do need the knobs off of here. You can pull those off. If you have a problem getting the knobs off, if they're too tight, you can try prying underneath them, but be very careful. Motorola knobs, I don't know what they made that cheap plastic out of, but they crack and easily break. So if you put a screwdriver under here to pry it up, be very careful. So once you've got the case lifted up like that, gently lift up a little more, pull it out. At this point, I usually flip it over, pull the case out. Be careful, because it is a flex connection. Try to hold it with both hands. And then you have to pry up on this little connector right here. The plastic does get brittle over the years, and I have broken them. But it's just the thin little piece right there that you'll see. So once you've lifted that up, the flex will come out. You can put this aside. Doesn't matter if you have a full display or just a top display. It will look all the same on the inside. Now, there were two versions of this flex case, although I do not understand their numbering, because I've seen an NTN2087A in both styles, or a B in both styles, I forget. But to me, the better one is this one with the additional separated clip here. And this style only has a clip here, one clip there. Whereas when you pull these off, this is all one piece. And if you can see it here, these little tabs get bent. And every time you pry those up and take them off, they may not stay when you put them back. So I always try to push them straight again. And sometimes a little farther than straight. So you can see this one's kind of splaying out. So I'll show you, once you get that flex off, those are the two different styles. So same thing here. Carefully put the screwdriver behind this and lift up on it. You can see once that thing's lifted up just a little bit, you can put the screwdriver under the flex gently, pull that straight out. Once the flex is off, you can put your little screwdriver under these tabs Sometimes this one up here is a little tough. And sometimes a little orange piece will fall off. But once you've got all those loosened, I usually try to pick it up and towards me this way, because there are a couple of catches right here, indentations to hold this side to the case. So when you pull this up, just kind of, like I said, twist it this way, and it will pull right up and out, straight out. And then you've got the center of the radio. You got your RF board, you got your controller board. And this is where the DES or DVP module would plug in, along with the little rubber support that covers all the circuits right there and insulates the board. Now these also have, when you have the DES module or the DVP module, there's a little button right here on the case and a little indentation right there, which pushes on the DES module. There's a little button on the module, so if you were to take the radio apart and take that case off, you lose the key in the DES module. So the other style that I prefer, and I think is a little better, because those little tabs on the side don't spread out, is these where it's a two-piece. Now these do have a little number on them. There's a 2 on that. Not sure if you can see it. Right there, there's a little number 2. Also a little number 2. And this one right here, it's under the flex, but that has a 1 on it. So that one clip is slightly different than these other 2. So when you put it back together, do not confuse it. And that's if this clip comes out, because this clip for the most part does stay in place under that flex right there. So I do the same thing with the screwdriver. I hold the flex up out of the way, undo the clip. These clips will fly off, and just be careful that you take them off gently. Put the clip aside. Same thing on this side. Like I just said, clip just flew off. Should have had my thumb over it. Good example. Same way, prying these off. Sometimes you have to get under this side first a little bit, just to get the case up. And there's a couple of ridges right here that grab also. That's why I was trying to pry it left and right. That comes up. On 800 megahertz radios, they have this little shield. On regular UHF and VHF, they do not have that shield. So luckily I had a spare clip. I've got plenty of spare parts. So if you wanted to actually take this board out, the rest of this you can. Just kind of pry up gently. Careful of the antenna connection right there. Board does come completely out. There is a connector right here. Very flimsy. It may come disconnected. It's not that big of a deal. Gently take it out. They are small little pins, but you can push them in there pretty nice. So sometimes I take these apart and put a little heat sink grease there, and you can see stock from the factory. There's no heat sink grease there. They use like a little rubber heatsink pad. On the reassemble, just be careful, line up the pins here. I've done this a couple hundred times, but not that easy doing it on camera and not trying to hold it. Once you get them lined up, just push it into place. Now there's also this little part that I lost. This little piece right here, plastic piece, goes over and holds everything kind of together also. Once everything's in place, usually put the antenna connection top end in first. Gently push it down into place. And make sure both of these are seated. Nothing sticking up. And on the one with the clip, slide that down. Make sure the middle's lined up. Snap this side on first. Give a clip. Clip in place and push down on that. Another clip here. Make sure they're all snapped into place. And right here, you want to make sure that that pushes down too. You should hear that kind of click in too. And that's these little indentations that you'll see right there and right there. So sometimes I've had problems with these not clipping on this side, and it's because this thing's not pushed in far enough. So sometimes I've had to bend that in to ensure that the thing clips on correctly. So you see that holds on nice with those. And then putting this back in, just make sure that the catch is up. Push that in there gently till it basically stops. And I usually use my fingers to kind of set it a little bit, holding the ribbon cable too, and then gently push along the whole thing and make sure that it's all even. Now in the assembly of the other one, with these tabs, once you've made sure that they're straight again, by bending those, this goes in the same way. But now that you've bent these tabs, and I forgot this one. Now that you've bent the tabs, you have to make sure that the tab does not slip into the wrong side of the case right here, in case you've bent them too far. So I usually just kind of make sure that everything's close. And just ensure that those are all clipped down properly. And the same thing with this. Again, pushed into place. Ensure that this thing's pulled up. I don't know if you can see this here. I did crack this right here, the plastic a little bit. But the retaining clip itself usually holds down fine. Just be gentle with this because this part right here is going to be a little more fragile. So make sure you hold it and don't strain the flex. Gently push that into place. Push down on the clip. Ensure that it's seated all the way. And if your little rubber gasket has shifted, just kind of make sure that that's all seated all the way around. Everywhere nice. Gently push it in from bottom to top. And I get it close and push from about here in the middle. As you can see, what's happening is the little rubber gasket starts to sometimes pinch up there. So at the same time as I'm pushing it down, if you push that in and help it a little bit. Sometimes if you release on the pressure before you snap it into place, it should snap right in. And there you go. And also on the little rubber emergency switch, it does have two little posts that stick up on either side of the emergency switch that go into the little holes of the rubber. And sometimes I just use a screwdriver to help it. Just make sure it's seated all the way across. Nice and even. And not messed up before you slide it into the radio. And then you can put the volume knob back on. And this goes on with the 1 at about 5 o'clock. Well, maybe 4 o'clock. Here is both the front display and top display model case. If you wanted to ever switch out the display on the front displays because you have a bad one, they're easily swappable. The 15 key or the 6 key should be swappable between either type of radio. I've had no problem swapping them out. On the top display, it's a little harder because this display here is actually double-sided taped and stuck in place. And they're very hard to repair. It's unfortunate the way these displays are, that how many go bad. It's mostly because of being in the heat and the way the flex connects to the LCD display, it becomes separated. Or just abuse and breaking in general, where somebody may drop it. So also the push to dock switch is really easy to replace if this is broken. Just kind of get under there in the middle with a screwdriver. Gently pry it up. This plastic piece has a tendency to discolor, so you can swap these between radios. Same thing with these buttons wearing out. You can just swap them out and That comes right off of there. And you can swap these easily enough. They go in from the top first. And then once it's lined up, snap it in. Now I'm going to show you how to replace the display on the front display one. So first thing I do is, again, with a little flat screwdriver, gently pull this little PC board up out of its little notches. Get that out of your way. And then to release the speaker, right here and right there, you need to pull down on it just a little bit. Be careful you don't stab yourself or stab the speaker. And then the same thing on the other side. Once you release one side, the other side will be a lot easier. And then gently pull that out. So that catches right on a little clip under there. And a lot of times on the radios, you'll see this little indentation right there. And that's because they have that, I don't know why, but that's where this clip goes, and a lot of times that breaks through. In order to get the PC board out, again, I am right-handed, so I take this in my left hand and I put my finger either on the 6, the 6 of the 9. And this is the side that releases. There's 3 little clips, whereas this side is fixed and the board actually goes at an angle under those and then clips down. So what you're going to want to do is pushing on the number 6 to the number 9, using the screwdriver, just gently push on the numbers and open up the clips one at a time. You might have to go back. It's already lifted up, I can see. And if you have to push it a little harder, just to make sure that it's released, you can. And then again, being very careful, if it's stubborn and it doesn't want to come out, you can get under it, under the board, and gently lift it up. Careful with the flex. That board comes up off of there like that. You can replace the rubber. If you have replacements, those are swappable. If you have a clean one or a new one, you just want to swap them between radios. You can swap out these covers between radios. Just make sure that it's pushed all the way down in there. And as far as going back in, like 3 little tabs go under that side. And then when you get back to the clip side, should push right in. And just be careful, push the microphone in gently and line the speaker up in the little thing. And before I put this on, I will get this in there first because it puts it in the way. And when you got the speaker clip on there, hold it with your thumb. I forget which side I've done first. Sometimes one's easier than the other. Again, just be careful. You don't stab yourself or stab the speaker. Pull down until it goes under that. Same thing on this side. Until it snaps under. And then with this, just make sure that it's behind the 2 little clips. And that should slide right down into place also. Just make sure it's seated. And there you go. That's easy enough.